Many of you have probably noticed that there is a new version of Nexus Mod Manager, an alpha version, and it comes with an exciting new feature called profiling. And you might be tempted to try it, and you're wondering how you can upgrade to it, how long it will take, and are there any problems? And I'm going to show you how to do it in this video. I'm going to show you how to cover any problems you might get, and how to undo it and go back to the old version of Nexus Mod Manager if you decide you don't want to stick with it. Now, before you begin anything, I want you to make sure your current version of Nexus Mod Manager has been updated to 0.53.2 or later. And I want you to make sure that all of the games you've modded with this tool are working just fine as they are. So you want to check that. This version of Nexus Mod Manager 53.2 has got a restore function that we will use later on if you decide to abandon the alpha and go back to this version. Okay, obviously the first step is to download the file. It is currently on one of the Nexus mod pages for Skyrim, rather than the usual Nexus Mod Manager link on the top of Nexus. So you go along to Files and download manually. As you can see, I already have it downloaded onto my desktop, along with the latest non-alpha version. And you may also notice a file called plugins text, and what this is, well, it is the plugins text file for Fallout New Vegas. It is a list of all of the plugins that my game uses and the order they come in. I have taken a copy of this and placed it on my desktop because it will be useful later on in fixing problems and in making sure I actually select the right options. I really suggest you do this, and if you're curious as to where you will find it, go along to it's usually your C drive, users, the username you're logged in as, app data, local, Fallout New Vegas, and you will find a plugins.txt file. Copy that to your desktop. As I said, it's not essential, but I highly recommend doing that. And as you can see, I have Nexus Mod Manager 0.532 installed right now. I have all my plugins selected and in the correct order, sorted by loot. I have a merge patch, and you can see all of the mods activated. You do not need to uninstall this. In fact, I don't recommend you do. So I'm going to close this. Okay, so time to install. I'm going to make sure I get the right file, 0.60, and double click to start the installation process. I'm going to use English, obviously, for me. And then you're going to get this warning with some bright red text. You really should read this. Just make sure you understand that this is, in fact, an alpha release. It is not considered stable. So, do bear that in mind. You are trying out the new version. Click Next, and I'm going to leave the default installation place. And I'm going to associate all of these things with Mod Manager. And then hit Install and let it do its thing. And there you go. Didn't take long at all. Now, I'm going to launch Nexus Mod Manager for the first time. And it's going to detect the two games that I currently manage with Mod Manager, which is Fallout New Vegas and Skyrim. Now, I am using Fallout New Vegas to show you how to do this, so I'm going to leave that selected and click OK. This new version requires you to revise your folder settings. Click OK to continue to the setup screen. Okay, so this is where the mods are stored, and this is where the Nexus Mod Manager install info are stored. They should be identical to the place you stored it in your old version of Nexus Mod Manager. If you don't actually know where that is, you can actually find it when you open Nexus Mod Manager and go to the settings section. The next thing is the virtual install folder. Let me extend that a little bit. This is where Nexus Mod Manager is going to store the files that will be used by each mod. What you need to make sure is that the folder it has selected is on the same drive, the physical drive, as your game, the Fallout New Vegas game, because basically it needs to install it on the same drive. Now, there is a way around this, which you can read about here, but I recommend for now making sure it is on that drive. This obviously means you're going to need a little extra space on that drive. So I'm going to follow its advice and then click Finish. And I get this pop-up. This new version of NMM includes a major update to the way we store and install your mods, which allows us to accommodate mod profiling, different profiles for different playthroughs of your game. In order for it to work, NMM needs to uninstall your currently installed mods. Choose option Yes if you would like NMM to attempt to try and reinstall all your currently installed mods using the new method. The migration procedure is a lengthy process and it could require several minutes depending on your PC speed. In actual fact, it can take longer than several minutes and probably will do. Choose No if you want NMM to uninstall all your mods and leave you to activate the ones you use again. So what it is going to do is it is going to disable all of your mods. It's going to disable them all. And if you click No, it will leave them disabled. And in fact, this is probably the safest way of doing this. But then, of course, you now have to go off and install and activate each mod you have installed, which can be time-consuming. Assuming that most of you want it done automatically, you're going to click Yes. Now, I'm going to warn you in advance. It is possible that this process will go without a hitch, but it's very unlikely. And the reason for this seems to be what Nexus Mod Manager now does is it tries to install the mods in the same order that you have installed them, which is great if you install the mods one after another and didn't change anything in between. That's very unlikely. It certainly isn't the case for me. I've uninstalled several mods, I've updated mods, I've tested different things, and so I'm probably going to have one or two minor issues, and I will show you them as I go along. But don't worry, it's not that hard to fix, but just understand it is going to require a little bit of work from you, even though Nexus Mod Manager is going to do the bulk of the work for you. So, having that warning out of the way, I'm going to click Yes and let it start doing its thing. Now, you'll see nothing is happening on my screen. And when this first happened to me, I was a little nervous. In fact, it actually stays like this for quite some time. Don't worry, Nexus Mod Manager is doing its thing. It's just not telling you about it yet. A pop-up will appear fairly soon. And there you go. Now it is beginning the installation process. Something else you're going to see in a second is, whilst it can install mods that don't have scripted installers without any interaction from you, anything that has a scripted installer, for example Project Nevada, will require you to go through the installation process, the scripted installer, because unfortunately the old version of Nexus Mod Manager didn't remember which options you chose. So, that is unfortunate, but you are going to have to make a few choices. And there we are, the first scripted installer has been found, and that is for Project Nevada. I want to leave everything selected and click Install. And that's it, well, for that mod. Okay, so I've had a few installers that pretty much were easy. This one's a little more complicated because I have to try and remember now which of these options I had. I think it was WMX DLC merged and WMX pop merged. This is for the pre-order packs and this is for the DLC. But I'm not at 100% sure. So this is where the plugins text I saved earlier comes in useful. So I'm going to edit this and I'm going to look for WMX. Control F, WMX, find next, and there you go. WMX DLC merged.esp and pop merged ESP. So that's a good indicator that these are the two I want. Okay, so our first problem has been found. The Flashlight NVSE mod, a mod that adds actual working flashlights to Fallout New Vegas. It's detected NVSE, so everything's good, but it's not detected MCM, which is odd because, of course, I am a big fan of that mod and know that I installed it. What this actually means is MCM has not been installed yet. Now, ordinarily, it's one of the first mods I recommend you install. However, what has happened here is at some point, not so long ago probably, I've uninstalled MCM or I've updated it or I've been trying different things and I've removed a few mods and added a few mods. And so MCM is now on the list to be installed later, which as you can see is a problem because Flashlights needs it and will not give me the install option. So I'm going to write this down. I'm going to write flashlights on a little piece of paper here. You probably don't need it. It's probably pretty obvious which mods failed when we're finished, but I'm just doing that just in case. And then I have to click cancel and let it carry on doing its thing. And now the next problem I'm going to get is on interior lighting overhaul. If I click yes, I don't want the GS Shack. I do want Lucky 38 Suite. Right, here. It has not detected a World of Pain. It has not detected New Vegas Bounties 1. And it's actually saying, oh, you don't actually have this mod installed. It's not detected what is required. Are you sure you want to continue? And yes, I am. And I also have New Vegas Interior Project Combo. Now this means it's not detecting the files that these mods supply, which either means the mod has not yet been installed, which is unlikely because I believe this is the last mod that gets installed, or those mods have not actually been activated and placed in the profile. Don't worry too much about that right now, but it means those files can't be detected by the scripted installer, which is a small weakness. However, I know I'm going to need those files, so I'm definitely going to make these selections. And there you go, a brief little thank you note and a request that you submit any feedback that you have, any bugs that you find, to the correct place, which you should do. So I'm going to click OK and take a look at my new mods tab. I can immediately see Fallout NVSE has not been installed yet, as I suspected. And also Project Nevada Eve support and WMX support have not been activated. And I'm going to take a quick look at the plugins, and in my particular instance there does seem to be an issue. The plugins have not actually been selected. Now a few times I did this, the plugins did get selected, but this time they did not. So I'm going to have to manually go along and click all of the plugins that I want, which is almost all of them, but not all in my case. The highways and byways I did not install, however. So again, having the plugins text will help if you are unsure which of these plugins that you need. Actually, a more sensible way of doing this is to actually enable all of the inactive plugins, and then for me to go back and deactivate the ones that I do not want. So let me just go through that. For example, I've got Fallout New Vegas World Lighting Overhaul, Original and Brighter Nights. I use the Brighter Nights because I make videos and people like to be able to see what's going on at nighttime. But I believe those are the two that I normally disable. So there you go. I'll go back to my mods tab. Now the more observant of you will have now noticed that when I went back to the mods tab, I now have a plus icon for Flashlight NVSE, which allows me to basically install the mod. And now NMC is in fact detected, and I can click install. It's going to replace the 1x1 HUD. No, I actually don't want it to replace this particular mod, because we want that icon to be hidden by one HUD. And then the other ones were Project Nevada Eve support. It doesn't seem to want... Right, disables the selected mod. Can't disable... Right, for some reason disabling it brought up this install icon. So it may actually be enabled, but it doesn't look like it. So I click disable and then enable. That's probably a small bug. I should report that. Go back to my plugins, double check they've all been selected, and Flashlight NVSE has not. And now what I'm going to do is quickly close down Nexus Mod Manager. I am going to run loot, select the game, it is already Fallout New Vegas, and then run loot. Allow it to sort my load order out, and then I'm going to restart Nexus Mod Manager for Fallout New Vegas. And just quickly check. Usually it places my merge patch in the wrong place. It did. I will place that down there. I should probably sort my loot rules so that my merge patch always ends up at the bottom. However, there you go. I now have my load order pretty much sorted. Hopefully all the files are correctly selected. Now, I can double check whether this matches my plugins text if I want to be absolutely sure, and I recommend that you should actually do that. Just find out, are you missing any files, or have you added some new files that you shouldn't have? And so what is left to do now is click on Fallout New Vegas 3GB Enabler, which is how I normally run the game, and actually see if everything is okay once in game. Now once in game, everything looks pretty good. I seem to have all the items I had. Immersive HUD is working. The textures seem to have been overhauled. Everything appears to be fine. But if I press escape and go along to my menu, warning, Darnified UI has been detected in the HUD but not in the start menu. You will need to repair Darnified UI or remove it completely for the mod configuration menu to appear correctly. Right. What seems to have happened here is the MCM, if I click OK, if I go along to mod configuration, the fonts are not the Darnified fonts. This is the vanilla fonts. It would seem, and you know, just so you can see, I am using the Darnified UI, obviously modified with one HUD. What seems to have happened is that certain mods, when installed, were not aware that I had the Darnified UI installed. Now this could be because the Darnified UI got installed in the wrong order, which I doubt, or it could be because those files were not actually detectable by the scripted installer at that time. I'm not sure which, but obviously it is a little bit of a flaw, and of course I am going to submit that as a bug. Fixing it is actually pretty easy. There are probably a number of ways of doing this. However, what I have found to be the best way is to deactivate Darnified UI, to uninstall the Darnified UI, to uninstall MCM, and any mods, well, not any mods that require it, but any mods that change the user interface. So I uninstall the Darnified UI, I uninstall the Unified HUD, and I also, this is probably not required, however, the Weapon Mod menu and Project Nevada. You don't actually need to do the extra options or the support, but Project Nevada, I'm going to uninstall it. And any mods that detected whether or not you had the Darnified UI. So that might include things like the Advanced Recon. If you go into game and one of your mods looks like it's using the wrong UI, uninstall it and reinstall it once you know Darnified has been installed correctly. So now what I'm going to do is, it requires me to deactivate it first. Again, small issue with the icons here. Oh, right. I'm gonna cancel this. Cancel it. Deactivate it. And uninstall it. As you saw, I forgot to uninstall the mod configuration menu, which is the mod that's actually giving me a little trouble. Okay, so disable the mod configuration menu and uninstall from all profiles. The reason I'm uninstalling is I want it to go through the installation process again, detect the files I have and transfer the correct files across. And I don't think deactivating does that at the moment. So I'm going to start with Darnified UI. Hopefully this should have no real problems. There you go. That's what I was looking for. It didn't detect it was overwriting anything. Next, I'm going to install Project Nevada. You might be tempted to install the MCM first, but I'm going to do Project Nevada because Project Nevada does come with its own version of MCM, and I want to overwrite that with the actual full MCM. Now I'm going to activate the mod configuration menu. Yes to mod. The weapon, okay, deactivate the weapon mod menu. Yes to mod. See, now it will definitely be installing the Darnified version of this mod too. So that was probably a good idea. And finally, one HUD. Yes to mod. Yes to mod on that one as well. And the Darnified patch. Now, again, other mods such as the flashlight, it may have a different version of its user interface for the Darnified UI. So once in game, I will need to check whether or not it looks correct. If it looks like the Darnified version or it looks like the vanilla version. If it's the Darnified version, I'm fine. If it's the vanilla version, I probably need to come out here and deactivate, uninstall and reactivate. But there you go. So I've redone those mods in the correct order. Obviously the plugins are now probably not correct, and I need to make sure that all of the plugins I need are selected. Okay, they're selected, and then loot. Okay, loot has been done. Loot has been done. An odd sentence. Loot has finished. And then just make sure my merge patch is at the bottom. And now we're going to try the game again and see if I have better luck in the mod configuration menu. Okay, so back in game. Press escape. No warning. This is good. Mod configuration. There we go. Darnified fonts. So the mods have now been installed in the right order. Now, as I've said, this is a small weakness with the export process, but it's probably something that's unavoidable, at least when changing from the old version of Nexus Mod Manager to the new one. I'm hoping that with the new version of Nexus Mod Manager from now on, when it remembers profiles, it will remember all of the details of how they were installed, so it will be able to do this much smoother. This is just a teething problem, an inevitable teething problem of converting from one system of doing things to another. And there you have it. I now have the latest version of Nexus Mod Manager, the alpha version, up and running, and I am now managing Fallout New Vegas mods using this tool, and I have access to this new exciting feature, profiles. Okay. So what happens if, for some reason, you want to revert back to the old version of Nexus Mod Manager? Well, don't worry, you can actually do that very easily indeed, and I'm going to show you how to do that now. Step one is uninstall all of the mods that you've got installed currently. If you go along to Tools and hit Uninstall All Active Mods, it will do that. It will obviously take quite some time. You're going to have to wait a while, so just go off and do whatever you want to do for several minutes and come back when it's finished. Now, in actual fact, it took over an hour to uninstall, but it has finished, and I now have all of the mods uninstalled for 0.60, and I'm going to close down Nexus Mod Manager. Now, it has uninstalled all of those mods, but there is still, if I go along to, it was F, Games, Nexus Mod Manager, Fallout New Vegas, Virtual Install, there is still a file called backup do not delete.zip. This is important. This must stay here. So don't do anything like remove any of these files. Just leave them completely alone. And then go along to the old version of Nexus Mod Manager, 0.53.2 in my case. Download that from the main site if you didn't download it earlier. Again, you will find that in the Install NMM link right at the top of Nexus. If you go along there, you'll be able to download the file. I downloaded it earlier, so just double click. Run, yes, once again, English, accept the agreement. Next, and I'm going to install it in the exact same place that I installed the alpha version so that it overwrites that version. Let it do its thing, and then launch Nexus Mod Manager again for Fallout New Vegas. This time 0.53.2. And I have gone back. Now you can see all of the mods are still there. The mods are still there. They've just not been activated. They've not been activated. So I can go along to Tools, Restore Backup, and it should automatically go to the place where the backup was made. Backup do not delete.zip. I'm going to select that. Click open. Are you sure to restore this backup? Yes. And then it will start. And as you will see, what it's doing is it is installing the mods one at a time. Now I'm actually going to expand this a little bit so I can see. And you can see it's actually running each one at a time as before. And again, I'm going to have to yes to mod. I'm going to have to once again select all of the options that I want for each of the mods with a scripted installer. Overwrite this mods file, yes to mod, and so on. Obviously, this is going to take a little time as well. Again, yes to mod, Project Nevada, yes to mod. Extra options, yes to mod on that one as well, and so on. And then I'm just going to go through the process. Whilst this is happening, it is actually probably a good idea to sit here and keep scrolling this down so you can see which mod is currently installing. Because unfortunately at the moment, when you get asked to overwrite, it doesn't tell you which mod is actually in the process. So unless you're looking at this, so you can actually see which one was in process, you won't know. I'm hoping they actually add that to that pop-up. Now the process seems to be a lot smoother when you do it in reverse, so restoring the backup. I've not had any problems so far, including interior lighting, which has detected all of the mods that I'm using. So it would seem that this process is definitely working a lot better. And this is it. This is the last one. The load order was partially imported from, and it's redone. One plugin not imported, not managed. Okay, so it's redone my load order to some degree as well. It hasn't selected all of the files, but I can do that now. Double check. Oh no, this is an old file. This is an old file. Ignore this one. This is something from that I created myself. Just ignore it. Project Nevada rebalance complete. And yeah, as you can see, the Project Nevada options don't seem to have been selected. And I need to make sure that I'm not selecting certain ones like the highways and byways, which I didn't want. And the other one was the lighting mod, which had 2 versions, and I only want one of them. There we go. So I've now got roughly what I should have. I am going to close down Nexus Mod Manager and once again run loot just to make sure. It's restored my my load order to what it was, but to be absolutely sure, I might as well run loot and then open up Nexus Mod Manager and double check. And once again, it's moved my merge patch slightly off. There you go. So my load order has now been sorted. All the mods seem to be installed. Of course, the big test is, does it actually work in-game? And everything looks okay. What happens when I go to the menu? No warning. Mod configuration. There you go. Darnified UI installed correctly. So I didn't have the same problem as I had when I upgraded. It seems to have restored everything pretty much perfectly. So it definitely seems like restoring the backup is a much smoother process. Okay guys, there it is. You can try out 0.60 and try out the new profiling if you want. And if you have any problems, you can go back to your original setup using the backup and restore functionality without much trouble. It's a little time consuming, I will admit. It takes a couple of hours each way, but it seems to be pretty safe. And if you are curious about the new profiling and you want to help out by testing it so that it gets better before the official release, I hope this video helped at least show you the process and some of the things to try and obviously some of the things to try and avoid. Of course, I will need to update my Nexus Mod Manager video, and by update I mean create a whole new one, but I'm probably going to wait until this version is out of alpha. However, I am going to reinstall the alpha version and give it a lot more testing. I'm going to be running my game from the 0.60 created load order for a little while, just generally get a feel for it. So, keep your eyes open for that video, and I will see you guys next time.